This is Riley Smith once again here. I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that I don't think is very very widely known or understood, and that's how banks truly make money. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. In order to do this, I want to back up a little bit, all the way back to the 1980s, and talk about a couple financial products and areas that that were going on at that period in time. So back in those days, certificates of deposit (CDs) were anywhere from 9 to 12%. Okay, and part of the reason those rates were so high is because the bank wanted to incentivize people to put money in the bank. That's how our bank system works. They need deposits on a consistent basis in order to be able to fund, investments and to be able to loan out money to other individuals. So what we're going to do here is we're going to type out a couple of numbers and really explain, like I said, how banks make money. So let's say back in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s maybe, the bank was paying 9% interest if you were to put $100 in for a CD. I'm just using 100 just to make this as simple as possible. So we're going to go ahead and enter 9 right here. And at that same time period, banks were also charging around 15% on consumer debt, which we've been in such a low interest rate environment for so long that just seems crazy. But I know my parents, when they first went and got a mortgage, it was in the double digits. So it's not that unrealistic. So if you went into the bank and you needed a mortgage or an auto loan, they were going to charge you potentially up to 15%. Okay, so the reason that's important is most people would look like, oh, the bank is earning 6%, meaning there's a 6% spread. But really, what we need to look at is look at it from a dollar standpoint. So what we're going to do, here's our starting value, $9. That's what the bank is essentially renting your money for at that time period. They're going to give you $9 for every $100 you put in. Okay, they're renting your money for that time period. However, Joe Schmo would come in and he would need a mortgage or an auto loan, and they would be charging him 15%. So that's what the 15 represents right here. Okay, so what would the bank truly earn in that case? Would it be 6%, or would it be much more than that? Let's find out. So in that one particular instance, the bank is actually earning 66.67% return on their money. That's pretty darn good. Now, that might make you upset, that might make you angry, but at the same time, we need these financial institutions, for the most part, to be able to, house some of our money. That doesn't mean that they're evil. However, this needs to be something that we're aware of and kept in check at the same time. Okay, let's say you're selling a product, a T-shirt, or a hammer, or whatever it is, an article of clothing or food or whatever it may be, and you sell that. Cost on that was only $9. Your return on that investment on that particular item would be 66.67%. And I think a lot of times people don't quite understand that. It's not just a 6% spread, it's truly almost a 67% return on your money. And I don't fault them for that. However, I think that some of their information can be misleading and not as transparent as it needs to be at times. My parents went through this because they were in this time frame. Is some of the banks were struggling. The economy was not doing as well as it could. So at that time, a guy named Alan Greenspan was in charge of the Fed, and they actually proposed to decrease the interest rates, which caused the CD rates to go down. And the goal of this was to really stimulate the economy. The CD rates to 3% compared to 9, and they decreased the consumer loan rate to around 9%. So let's go ahead and enter those numbers in. We had 3 here, then we had 9. Okay, there's still a 6% spread on that. Okay, from 3 to 9 is still 6. However, what is our rate of return? It went through the roof. It's 200%. And that's how the banks were able to make money. And in that time period, they got out of turmoil very, very quickly because of this right here, in terms of the rate of return on their money. And in case you're not aware of this, let's say you take $100 into a bank, or whatever amount of money we're talking about, your weekly or every 2 weeks your check is deposited, and that's going to be going through that bank. And it's called the fractional reserve banking system. And what that is if there's $100 that you deposit into that, they're going to be giving that money or loaning that money out, or a portion of it out, to someone else, and their dollar can do more than one thing at one time, and that it can be very, very powerful for them, and thus results in these huge rates of return. What is today's environment like? And historically, the interest rates have been low for really the past decade, if not longer. So you might think, well, because of that, then the banks aren't making quite as much money, especially after 2008, when they had to be bailed out. So let's take a look at that. Today's rates on a CD, you're barely going to get 1%, but I did look this up. I was able to find one for about 1.3%, and let's think of a typical loan that you might get at a bank, whether it's a mortgage or an auto loan, but we're going to stick with the mortgage. Mortgage rates today for a 30-year fixed are right around 4.5%, maybe a little bit north of that. But let's look and see what our rate of return is on that. 246%. So they're still doing pretty well. And again, this is a little known fact for a lot of people. So I hope that this really opens your eyes a little bit. And the more important thing isn't to get upset about this system and how they're making money. It's maybe asking ourselves the question, how can I learn about this system? How can I take advantage of these kinds of rates of return and start to implement that in my own life? And now, if we were doing this each and every single day, that would be illegal. We're not allowed to do it to this extent. However, there are systems in place and strategies that you can implement within your financial life that could allow you to use your dollar with more than one purpose. And I hope you find some value out of this. So again, this is how banks make money. And leave some comments and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for your time.